So I was pondering and sort of wondering, and I came up with a list of some notes on being a man and kind of what it takes, the iterations that I've come across. And here's the first one: is a lot of times, especially as you're trying to figure out who you are and you're coming to terms with the reality in which you're in, you do fixate on the perception of others, right? What is the perception of them of me? And that becomes a gnawing sensation. And the closest thing I can kind of get you to understand what that looks like is to look and see the dudes that are constantly looking at themselves in the mirror. Because what that tells you is they're really concerned with how they're being perceived by others, whether physically, right? But it also could be a very much an internal reflection of their discomfort with perhaps looking disheveled or things of that nature, right? Or their confidence levels or whatnot. And they have to remind themselves by looking at their physical image of themselves to kind of see where they are, right? And what they need to do, and they need to fix their hair or maybe, you know, their face or their eyes or whatever it is, right? Whatever they have to look at. And so I think the solution to that gnawing sensation, right? That constant reminder of what you look like is to do what? Very important. Live in the first person and not in the third person, right? Because the first person is you're living directly from you're projecting outward from where you are, from who you are, from what you have become. Super important. The key distinction between the first person and the third is this. If I'm in the first person, I'm just feeling the sensations. I'm seeing the world from my lens and my lens only. The third person, on the other hand, is it's the bird's eye view. It's looking from above. It is that constant gnawing and wondering, am I being accepted? Do these people like what I'm saying? Are they interested in what I'm saying, for example? Okay, so that's an interesting one. And there's sort of like a performance burden that comes with that. But the thing is, this is what happens, right? You have to, in order to get away from the third person and kind of get into the first, is I think you have to seriously beat down the body physically. And what I mean by this is, if you're a person that deals with a little bit of anxiety and this gnawing sensation of not feeling good enough, it's to do what? And it is to work out so hard that by the time you're done, you go into the world and you're just so beat down that everything after that is just it keeps you in a state of ease, that you are just one with the world, in which you're not worried about what people are thinking or what you look like or anything related to that. You are just it's the most zen state I can feel. I don't have much thoughts. I'm just kind of in the world, and I'm marinating, right? I'm blending into wherever I'm at, right? Whatever landscape I'm in, and I love that feeling. And I think if you haven't felt that, you need to do that. Work out extremely difficult, and you'll see that feeling goes away very fast. The other thing is, and so you can kind of get the comparison. For women, it's what? They have a biological clock, right? But I think for guys, we have an economic clock, meaning that your time's up, buddy, if it feels like you're never gonna get there, if you haven't done the things you need to do to get to a certain position in life. It's really hard for somebody to bank on your potential when you're a 40-year-old overweight man and haven't done anything to prove that you even can get out of that situation you're in. I'm not saying it's impossible, but what makes you think that you're just going to suddenly wake up one day at 40 and decide now is my time? And so there is an economic clock, right, that we have as men, and that you kind of have to put that in perspective and see it as you have to move towards something. And if you don't, you run the risk of never getting there, right? Because you might not have the energy to ever do that. So that's super important. Here we go. Give me 1 second. The other one is you got to educate yourself. You cannot let institutions or media or any sort of conglomerate, any sort of organization to kind of dictate what it is that you need to know. And so I think when you go off on these forays into the forest of the intellect is that you read a bunch of stuff that you find interesting, that's super random, that is out of left field, and you try to find the connections. And that, I think, is a way to educate yourself, is you sort of weave that web together. And however chaotic it is, it's going to make you different from everyone else, without a doubt. And this is the one, this is the last one I'm going to leave you with. And this is the most important one. It's energy. And look, the most important thing is to have energy. You need to have energy to put into something. I used to be, I think I still am in some ways, right? But somebody that didn't have the energy to do anything, and I didn't know how to get the energy to do anything. And really, it doesn't really make sense, but it does at the same time. But the only way to get energy is to put energy out there. And then you sort of get moving in a direction, and then that will sort of drive you forward. But I think if anybody feels like a sloth or is lazy, you need to really focus on getting your energy right. And that is obviously easier said than done, but obviously you can do the thing of what? You can try to eat healthy, whole foods, focus on that department, right? That's possible. The information's out there. You can figure that out. But then there's more to it than that. There's like the spiritual sort of nutrients that you need. And you need to make sure that you're doing things that are going to enliven your spirit, that are going to wake you out of your stupor, that are going to fire you forward when you don't want to, when you mess up, when you have slip-ups, when you make mistakes, when you don't feel like things are going your way. And you need to be able to push forward even despite that. And so energy in that department is so important as a man, is you need to be able to have the energy to do things. And if you don't have that, I think it's very hard to get going in any direction, because you won't have the ability to get past those roadblocks, mental, physical, whatever they may be. And so anyhow, these are all just, like I said, notes on being a man and kind of what I've been able to get through recently that stand out to me. And I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.